Hello and a warm welcome to the latest TikTok Shop webinar series titled How to Get Ahead on TikTok Shop 2025. My name's Rod Johnson and I am a Senior Account Executive at Channable. As a quick intro, we help brands, retailers and agencies manage and optimize their product catalog feeds across multiple e-commerce social media platforms, including TikTok Shop and TikTok Ads. We are also a TikTok integrations partner. My co-hosts today are Tana Maria, Head of Integrated Marketing at TikTok Shop, and also Ashley Wright, thought leader within the TikTok space and founder of SocialTail, a leading TikTok growth agency. Great to have you both on board today. I'm really excited in terms of the webinar and the stuff that we're going to dig into. So guys, look, as we only have around 40 to 45 minutes, it's going to be a really tight schedule. So in terms of the running order, we're going to split the webinar into two parts. Part one will consist of a complete 360 overview of TikTok Shop and also touch on the TikTok ecosystem, and that will be presented by Tana. And part two will consist of a panel discussion to focus on the key fundamentals and strategies to unlock growth opportunities and scale your e-commerce brand on TikTok Shop. In addition to this, we will also touch on the importance of the creator and TikTok community, and also a deeper dive on the different shopping and ad formats to be successful on TikTok. And then lastly, to round up the webinar, we will have a short Q&A session at the end. So with that said, I would like to introduce my co-host. I'd like to start with Ashley to introduce himself and a quick background, and then hand over to Tana Maria to do her quick intro and then to kick off the webinar in full. Thanks guys, and I'll see you on the panel discussion.
As Rod mentioned, my name is Ashley Wright. I'm founder of SocialTail. We are a TikTok growth agency focusing predominantly mainly on TikTok Shop. I've been running TikTok Shop now for 2 years, and obviously our knowledge goes back to 4 or 5 years on the whole TikTok space. So we pretty much know in terms of the ins and outs, in terms of how to kind of get results on the platform. So hopefully I can bring some great insights to this discussion today. Yeah, I'm happy for you all to be here.
Lovely. Thank you, Rodney, for the great introduction. And I'm so happy to be here and speak on this panel. Actually, I think, like your videos are just so great and helped already so many brands, most of them which you work with, also like a huge audience that you're not speaking to like directly, but it's like really great to have partners like you as well out there. So let me kick it off. Just to bring everyone on the same page, I thought I'd bring some slides to kind of like show the TikTok Shop universe. So globally, I mean, TikTok doesn't need an introduction really. It's one of the fastest growing platforms for entertainment, and it's also a mighty force for e-commerce. And we're available in 75 languages in a bunch of countries, #1 global downloads, and the commerce part is available in more and more countries, and it's becoming more and more relevant for every brand. So to us, discovery commerce is really the new era of shopping. So when we look at, content or discovery commerce, which are usually used interchangeably, it's a source for growth. It's growing faster than e-commerce. And we are expecting that, for instance, in the UK, we will have an opportunity of 16 billion by 2028 for the whole discovery commerce space. And on TikTok already, we have a very, very large amount of content live with TikTok Made Me Buy It videos, with just like hashtags. And also when we do some user studies, 84% of users say that they are likely to consider a product or a service that they came across on TikTok. I think this is because TikTok is very authentic. It's a very much more authentic platform than any other. And the way you can discover products is just supernatural, speaking to a friend, being in someone's living room, and just very, very accessible. So here you see in this little video how it works in case you haven't seen it yet, end to end, right? So you would have a little shopping bag and then click on it and then be able to check out directly in 2 clicks. So it's like one of the most convenient shopping experiences that you have out there. So it's fully integrated, and the way that it means it's fully integrated is that also like the product tracking, order tracking, etc. is all within one app. So no clicking out, no back and forward, which kind of like is difficult. It's a super seamless and super fast experience. And so essentially, there are 4 ways that you can come across a product and shop it on TikTok Shop. So we have the classic, a shoppable video. It's like any other TikTok, just that, you know, you have this little thing, this little shopping bag, you can click on it, and then the whole journey starts. Then, just as other live streams, you can also shop from a live. I think you probably see straight away whether a live is shoppable or not, because the lives like look very different. You will see the products. It's pretty fast paced with great presenters, so creators can sell, brands can sell, then agencies can sell on your behalf as well. And then there's also the shop tab, which is like the classical e-commerce environment. In any country where a TikTok shop is launched, you will have a little shopping icon just at the bottom where you can always access the shop. And a product or creator showcase is really like the shop window, where a curated selection of products are on display to inspire you and your journey further. So you have both curation and a super personalized journey. Just to show the different journeys a little bit more in detail, shoppable videos, live. So this is the typical look and feel, but in the end, like the checkout process is more or less the same. I think what is nice about the shop tab that it learns with you. So like every shop tab is like super different, and it'll get like more and more intelligent the more you use the platform. So our ecosystem creates really the perfect path to purchase because there are so many elements coming together. And I think TikTok Shop is very unique in that, actually. So as a seller, as a brand, you can tap into so many different like communities. So for every niche in that, there is something, a community around it. So that really means that you can make and build an incremental business out of that, you know, because if you're saying, okay, so we have so many channels already, they're super successful. Yes, but you'll reach even more and other audiences or maybe customers you didn't even know you'd have on TikTok Shop. And I think that's the beauty of it. And then we have creators. And I think the way you can work with creators on TikTok is really like at scale. Like no one, has time anymore for that manual selection and curation. You could if you wanted to, but with an open plan creator model, you can just like have really a hands off the wheel collaboration mechanism with any type of creator that you might or might not even know out there. And then last but not least, it's like really content driven, content forward. And I think, if there's something that like online buying can never get enough is like rich content that you explains your product well. If you have a story to tell, like a good product, you want to put that story out there, you want to show it from every angle, and that's where Discovery Commerce is just miles ahead of any other like solution that is there since like 20 or 30 years. So yeah, to become a seller, it's pretty easy, let's say, in theory. There are not so many steps involved, but the steps are tricky, and I think we'll get to that a little bit later. So basically, you start with a TikTok handle that you already have, like could be a registered creator seller or just like brand channel, and then you set up like the whole your product shop, etc. And then you can see how you want to work with creators, post your own videos, and then obviously, once you have all of that, you can also start boosting it through our own platform campaigns, such as, I don't know, like Valentine's Day is our next campaign, Easter deals, and then up until Black Friday, and ads as well. And so I think there are a lot of ways to upload and manage the product catalog. I think the most like common one is probably like the app. So I think the manual management only makes sense if you have maybe like 3 SKUs and then you're happy to do them in a manual way. An app, you know, like from the App Store, integrators such as Channable, really like available in our App Store, are like this most common and easy way to connect. Then there's, I mean, in theory, also custom APIs, you know, if you have an internal development team available, but it's like far less common. And so, yeah, there are different apps in our App Store available. So it goes from connectors to like really like multi-channel management, also shipping and fulfillment, tracking orders, print on demand, etc. So there are like loads of things we do have. But I think the focus of today will be a little bit narrower. Just to like circle back on the creators, I mentioned the open plan and the target plan. We do always recommend sellers to work on an open plan just because it makes it so much more scalable. We have great case studies on our blog, you know, Puma, who upped their sales by like 700% after switching to open plan. Really, really incredible results. And our customers really say that, you know, creator content on TikTok is believable to them. Those are like people like you and me. Very, very authentic people, very authentic content. And then, as mentioned, we have the campaigns and branded promotions. So plenty full of solutions to give like customers that extra incentive as well within our ecosystem. Yeah, I think I wanted to keep it brief. I hope I didn't go through it too fast, but I'm really, really looking forward to the discussion we're going to have now.
Okay, great, Tana. Thanks for that overview. I think let's kick off then with the panel discussion. Ashley, I wanted to dive straight in, actually, and what I noticed on your LinkedIn post, so your LinkedIn post to actually promote this webinar, I noticed a comment that really resonated with me. And the comment, and I'm going to quote the comment, and the comment was, really nice to see someone teaching the practical stuff instead of just only talking about the TikTok success stories. And that actually prompted me or triggered me to think, that's actually a really good question. Why do some brands struggle on TikTok? And Ashley, in your opinion, what are the recurring themes you see and mistakes that brands who are struggling on TikTok or struggle to be successful on TikTok, in your opinion, what are you seeing? And then what we can do is bookend that question by conversely balancing that question rather by saying, what are the top 3 or 4 consistent strategies that work for the successful brands on TikTok?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And I think the reason, again, obviously the platform is still so new, right? It's literally still like at a startup, right? People still forget that is the situation with TikTok. And I feel like the place where a lot of brands go wrong is, first of all, like you mentioned, people are seeing the success stories of obviously brands that are doing really well, right? And because they might see that they've done a live here or they've worked with these affiliates, people just kind of jump the gun and think, okay, oh, we need to do live straight away, or we need to do this straight away. And they don't really have an actual strategy in place, because I think that's the main thing where a lot of people go wrong. Even if your strategy might not be accurate, because again, the platform is always changing, it's always developing, it's getting more mature each and every day. So again, what worked, for example, 3-6 months ago might not work today. So again, it's all about just figuring out what your overall strategy looks like and kind of sticking with it as well. Because again, if you do something, again, let's say today, it might not actually start to get traction for another 30 days, another 6 days, for example. So and a good example I always use is if you're working with affiliates from day one, you send the samples out, they've got obviously 14 days to obviously create a piece of content, then that kind of goes to the algorithm. And the great thing with TikTok and algorithm right now, that piece of content can continue to start to generate obviously traffic, sales for 6-8 months now as well. So again, where people kind of miss the the gun really is in terms of like they send some samples out and they think, oh, TikTok's not working, we need to change strategy. Whereas realistically, you kind of need it to kind of mature and kind of start to grow from that side of things. So I think that's definitely one of the main things for it. And especially then what we've seen, especially more bigger brands, enterprise brands as well, they're kind of coming on the platform and thinking, because obviously, yes, they've got clout on their website or Amazon or retail, they think that's just going to all of a sudden just transform onto the TikTok shop. Whereas personally, I think TikTok shop as a whole, everyone's got the same kind of level playing field. So again, you've got to kind of play by the rules in terms of, like I say, working with affiliates, running ads, doing lives. You've got to have that bigger picture in terms of looking at it. You can't just think, okay, we're going to launch on the platform, put our products on there and everything's going to take off. You do need to have a strategy behind it. And like I say, you do need to stick with it and implement it.
Great, that's great feedback. Tanner, have you got anything to add to that?
Oh my God, yeah, it's definitely +1. So I think we always like to talk about the first 90 days or like the first, kind of like quarter. You need to think about, what do I want to get out of this? And the sticking with it, the consistency is key, like being patient. And I think good content quality. And I think, like lots of brands also say like, oh, we don't know what good content quality looks like, or we don't have the resources, like video, it's like a lot to do. And so I think, that's where like the creators come in. There are brands that don't do own shoppable videos, but they have a strategy for working with creators, or they have a strategy to, let's say, don't do shoppable videos, but do lives. But whatever they do, as long as you have that consistency and you know why you're doing it and you know how you're doing it, then, stick to it and then see how it goes. So have that in mind and that time frame in mind.
Yeah, totally agree.
I think with that as well, I think with that as well, I think another part as well is also expectations as well, because again, like you mentioned, that 90-day period where again, obviously is kind of that cold start kind of part. We all speak to brands, whether it's like onboarding or speak to them, they're always like sometimes unrealistic in terms of what their goals look like for the first 30, 60, 90 days and beyond. So again, it's kind of also reframing and thinking, okay, yes, you're probably not going to get to like the likelihood's not going to get to like 100K in like the first 30 days, right? Because obviously there's a structure and there's obviously a plan to kind of get to that. So I think definitely that expectation in terms of how the platform works and obviously just seeing how long it takes to kind of get to the point you kind of want to get to. So again, I feel like definitely plays a big part as well.
Great additional context there, Ashley. Actually, I'm going to lean in a little bit more to what Tanner mentioned about that first sort of 90 days, but then I'm going to flip it over to you, Ashley, in terms of first 90 days is important to actually understand what the brand is actually trying to achieve and their audience as well. But then I think there's a bigger question in terms of a 12-month, so 360 days, right? What does that actually look like? Because I think there is something around the TikTok funnel in terms of that first 90 days, probably understanding what is going to work, what is not going to work for the particular brand. But then how do you then extrapolate that out to sales across and what strategies to use across TikTok Shop? Ashley, I know you've worked with numerous brands and helped them to scale. Could you share some tips and insights in terms of what that longer roadmap looks like and kind of like break it down into sections?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you made a good point there, Rodney. I think anyone who's going to start doing TikTok Shop, they need to look at it as 12 months. They can't just think, oh, we're going to try it, test it for 3 months, because honestly, that you might as well not do it if that's the case. You need to go all in, because again, you will reap the rewards once you kind of go in. And we see that with the brands we work with. We had some brands that maybe have like tried it and thought, okay, it's not for us. But then the brands that stuck with it, they might have been slow, but now they kind of scaling to all different heights. So I always say to brands, the more aggressive you can be on the platform, you're going to get more out of it. And what I mean by aggressive, it's in terms of, okay, how many samples can you send out per month in terms of to creators? How much can you be running on ads and how much can you be spending on ad side of things? How much shoppable video can you be doing on your organic profile? Can you start to do lives? And again, the lives don't need to be the high quality. It can just be like, say, in your warehouse, or if you've got space there as well. So again, if you can start to do that from the off, it's going to allow you to get that momentum and start to build. Because again, the main thing is TikTok Shop is all about algorithm. You just need to start feeding it positive signals. And again, if you're doing live consistently, guess what? TikTok Shop can find them users for when you do go live and start bringing more people to it. Because again, I feel like people kind of get overwhelmed and obviously kind of get a little bit deflated again, for example, if they're not getting results straight away. And lives is probably a big part of that, because again, You might do some lives to begin with. You might only get 10 people, 20 people show up. But again, it's all about just building them reps, seeing what works, and continuing to do more and more of that. And then again, it starts to scale. So definitely in terms of like being as aggressive as possible with that. And again, kind of having your budget in mind as well. And what I mean by budget as well, obviously, again, how much can you spend on ads per month? And one thing I feel where brands don't realize or forget as well, in terms of like, do you have like a creator budget as well? Because again, the platform, like I mentioned before, is getting more mature. And some of these top creators now, you could back like again, 9 months ago, you could maybe just give them a higher commission, right? But now it's kind of getting to a point where some of these creators will want an upfront fee or like, like content. So again, if you can pay these creators, you're going to probably unlock the higher percentage ones as well. So again, being able to do that again is going to allow you to get a lot more from your affiliate kind of outreach, rather than like say just sending out samples and hoping for the best. Because I would say if you send out 500 samples, it's like a lottery ticket. Maybe one might go viral, but if you've got a bit more strategy around it, then again, that's going to support your kind of efforts in the long run. So that's kind of how I'd say the first 90 days look. And then from then onwards, it's just kind of how can you optimize in terms of what's working. It's all about looking at your data, right? So again, looking at your live, seeing what products are working well, when you can do the flash sales, what's kind of trending from that side of things. When there's obviously certain parts of the year, again, obviously TikTok Shop's great in terms of like subsidizing campaigns outside of things as well. How can you prepare in advance so again you're proactive with these campaigns? Because again, that's going to give you a lot of juice and get you a lot of traction as well from that side of things. And like I say, then having your ad strategy, because again, you're not necessarily going to probably run the same ads every single month, right? Because again, like for example, Valentine's Day is coming up. So again, how can you integrate, like maybe changing your product listings for Valentine's, working with your creators to do Valentine's content and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's kind of looking at the bigger picture. And again, that's where, again, I feel like a lot of brands go wrong. They're kind of just tunnel vision and kind of looking at it like 1 month. And then by the time it gets to February, they've not planned for it. And then they're kind of chasing the curve. And then that's, again, where you kind of miss the kind of opportunities that, again, TikTok Shop kind of brings. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a breakdown for it. Obviously, I could speak about this all day, but obviously just based on time.
No, that's a great answer, Ashley. And the thing that springs to mind to me is that this actually takes a lot of resource.
Mm-hmm, it sure does.
So if we just think about that question alone, that itself is within a challenge, is a challenge within itself. A, to get the expertise, and then B, also maybe to have the right tools in place as well. So when we talk about mastering the basics, like from a Channable perspective, that's what we do. We just make sure that your feeds are error-free. You've got your one master centralized feed that we can syndicate to all of your channels. If we're talking about TikTok, then obviously that's going to be TikTok Shop and TikTok ads, and it's robust and you can optimize it and you haven't got a problem. You don't have to think about it. But then there's so many other moving parts, which I'm sure that you're aware of, and also Tanner as well. What would you say to a brand that's looking to start off? Let's say it's a fairly well-known brand, but they are, I don't know, high school age when it comes to TikTok. They've got no knowledge apart from what they've seen. What would you say are the resources, A, that they would need either internally, externally, or even working directly with TikTok themselves? In fact, I'll start with you on that one, Tanner.
I think there's no answer for everyone, because we do see very many differences in how brands get involved and how they structure internally for this. And there's I think there are two things. So first of all, I think number one challenge usually is that TikTok usually sits with a marketing department in companies, but then TikTok Shop would need to move to commerce. And so, but they still need to partner, because on their channel, there will be shoppable content, non-shoppable content. So first of all, there are two departments that need to talk to each other. If it's a small company, no problem. If the larger the enterprise, the more challenging this becomes.
Yes.
And then I think, while I don't think there is one set answer, like, oh, you need 10 people or you need 5 people to work on this and they need to have this and this and this skill set. What I do need, I think you need to be clear that it's an active management, and so that there needs to be someone 100% responsible for this. Doesn't matter how big his team is or her team is. Because to build a strategy, to stay on top of the things, and then in the way of like operationally, it really depends. If they want to do content themselves, then that's a different skill set than, working with creators, managing, the sampling process, or like target plans even, etc. If they do ads, they might need someone, again, from the marketing team coming in. So I think, first of all, I think the collaboration within the company is super important, because it's like a content forward commerce, and because it sits to the edges of marketing, so to say. And the rest depends a little bit on the way you want to tackle this and the way you want to use the ecosystem. But yeah, just to be aware of the fact that it's not like you upload your product listing and then that's it, right?
Great answer.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
Ashley.
really. I totally agree with Tana there, and I feel like it's definitely important that there is one person who is solely responsible for the whole TikTok shop, whether it depending obviously what they do, whether they're working with an agency or other team members, what it looks like, but someone needs to be focused on this. And again, what I would always recommend to brands as well, because I see a lot of brands now as well are kind of like trying to divvy up like the social media manager to kind of do that as well. But I personally think that it should still be a separate role, because it's more social commerce, whereas obviously the whole kind of social media manager will kind of focus on obviously more organic stuff and across other platforms. So I think there definitely needs to be someone whose main focus is just focusing on TikTok shop or like say social commerce, because again, then they can kind of see the overarching kind of channel as a whole, the kind of strategy and all that side of things. And definitely, again, another point Tana made, which I think was spot on as well, especially in the bigger kind of enterprise companies as well, where there is a lot of more people in terms of that, is how can you kind of sync? Because again, some of the pushback in terms of what we have from brands is, okay, this is our kind of TikTok strategy from an organic perspective, and they want to do like trending content and stuff like that. Whereas realistically, you need to be working with that team to say, okay, yes, that can work, but you can need to have some shoppable video as well with that, whatever that percentage looks like. Again, it's obviously debatable. There's no one size fits all, but again, it's kind of figuring out, okay, can we have our content that's going to continue to educate the users, which is going to be more building the brand, social presence, that side of thing. And then can we have like more of the social kind of USP, shoppable link content as well. So having both of them merged together, again, starts to work. But again, I think it's still a lot of educating around brands in terms of how that looks. But again, I feel like brands are starting to understand that a little bit more.
Great answer, Ashley. And maybe just to expand what I like to call the TikTok ecosystem, how does we talked about that in-house capability, and we've talked about chopping up having separate roles, marketing, e-commerce sales, having someone specifically on the social media piece, how important that is. It's becoming ever increasingly more important. And then that ties in nicely into the importance of the collaboration with creators and the TikTok community. And that's the bit that I think that's a nice segue into maybe getting some insights from yourself then in what looks good from a successful brand on TikTok in terms of how they are collaborating with creators and also the TikTok community.
Yeah, no, and with that, again, it's all about how can you bring these creators, affiliates to be a part of like your brand, basically the whole journey. Because again, where a lot of brands go wrong is they obviously, like I say, they're sending out measures, sending out samples, and then hoping the creator creates a good piece of content. And that's kind of the relationship done. The brands that are kind of starting to understand it more and realize, okay, these are an extension of our brand basically. So if we can find whether it's great creators who are creating good content and obviously work closely with them, or maybe they're creators who maybe need a little bit of support, is how can you start to educate them and support them with the brand? Because it's just like you acquire a customer, right? Whether it's on DTC or whatever, you acquire them, but then it's how you obviously retain them to get the LTV from them, right? It's exactly the same with like creator affiliates. You want to obviously get the creators through the door, and then how can you work with them to support you to obviously continue to create more content and obviously improve? Because again, the longer you work with the creators, they're going to obviously understand the brand more. They'll obviously be able to create better content, and at the same time, they'll obviously be a part of that whole journey. So definitely, rather than keep having to find net new creators, it's easier to work with the ones that obviously understand the brand and obviously kind of want to be a part of it. It's the best way for it. So again, when we have some creators, they're like thankful that we work with them. In some cases, like, oh, we love the brand, we obviously want to do this. So then it's all about building them relationships, and again, starting to build out the community with them. So again, we start to build out communities, whether it's on which obviously WhatsApp group, Discord, whatever it looks like for your brand. Again, there's all these different places. Every brand's going to be different. Again, there's no one size fits all, because again, depending on what your audience kind of wants. filter them into there. And then again, how can you be then announcing when you've got a new product drop in, when you're doing flash sales, whether you're doing incentives? If they're all in one place, it's a lot easier to get the message across rather than, like I say, trying to identify everyone in the back end of TikTok Shop seller in terms of like if you've got like a certain campaign running. But then again, even if you have got them in the community, having that one-on-one conversations as well with kind of like your more VIP creators, again, that's going to allow you to get the most out of, like say, every affiliate that you kind of work with.
Brilliant, great. And actually, I'd maybe like a comment from Tanner as we obviously this is part of TikTok's success, right? It's that community and the creative advantage it has versus all the other platforms. Are there any maybe tips or maybe new trends that you see that will happen in 2025? Are there things that TikTok are looking to, you know, make that side of things more impactful? Just wondered if there was anything you could share from that side.
There are always like micro improvements that we do for the collaboration part, right? So one of it was that we were introducing the possibility to have like refundable samples. So you could set thresholds, you know, for brands to be able to be sure that there's going to be enough content created or more like impactful enough content created before they give out a sample for free. I think a point I would like to add overall is that the matchmaking is something that is like key to us and also very dear to us. And we always try to find new ways to help brands and creators match well, right? So having an open plan sort of creates that kind of marketplace where you naturally find each other, because if a creator performs well with your product, then you know you have an audience there because, you know, their followers are buying your things. And so that can then lead to more, yes. But, you know, how do you get to that first step? And can you kind of like cut out like a noise or mistakes? Yes. So that we experimented with several things, right? So there are always kind of initiatives, whether they are online or even we do like an in-person matchmaking event, you know, where, you know, brands and creators can really like actually talk to each other and get to know each other in person. So we're still like finding out things and also changing the way we're doing this all the time, I think constantly. And then there's also, you know, like agencies that can help you with this job, right? So that match make either all the time or just for certain campaigns. So I think, you know, the ecosystem is also, it's not just TikTok, it's also,
Exactly.
you know, the partners that we work with, that you guys here in the room, that can help with like all kinds of things, right? So either this like glamorous side or like less glamorous sides, like how do I make a product listing so it doesn't get unlisted, or, you know, like a lot of things, right?
Great answer. Okay, look, I can't believe we're already sort of 10:35 already. So as we're drawing towards the end, I think what I wanted to do was maybe just go a little bit deeper into the different shopping formats on TikTok Shop. And a personal favorite for me is, only because I don't know so much about it, is the live shopping part. That's the bit that I believe is potentially got one of the biggest growth potentials for 2025 for TikTok. So I don't know who'd like to start off on that.
I'll stop because I was always the second one.
Go on.
Until now. No, so I think, you know, live is a huge focus for us. And like when you go to China or to Southeast Asia and you see what is happening, like whole shopping malls, and the mall is empty, but there are just like the windows are there, like for live shopping to happen, you know. And I think some of the brands that use it really like, you know, are in the forefront of it or don't shy away from experimenting. You know, last year we had L'Oreal doing a live at Piccadilly Circus in the Boots, you know. At the same time, we had a huge banner for Super Brand Day Up. And then we have brands that only, you know, sell via lives because they have a very special product, such as Lux Collective, because every of their pieces are unique. And so they saw that live is actually the only channel that makes sense for them, right? And I think, you know, it's super, super interesting. And I think if, you haven't seen a live yet, please, do, and, watch it. It's got something very special to it. And it's definitely something we have a huge focus on. And that, like, luckily, brands start to experiment also more and more with, like we've seen in the UK, it exploding last year. And I think it's, it's also thanks to the ecosystem, and that, that there are companies that know how to run it, like, because they're not like every company has someone that can just like stand there and like do it. You need external help or finding creators doing it, etc. But I think one point that I really liked is that the setup doesn't need to be like super artificial, it can be also like an improvised setup, because we're like such an authentic platform, right?
Right.
You don't, yeah, as long, it can be so fun, we even starting to do with like publishers. And I think in one of, like, it was basically a fashion magazine, and the ladies were just like there in their closet, selling things out of their closet. It's like amazing. It's super entertaining.
Awesome. Love that answer. Ashley, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just to back up what Tana said, I think that the main thing is don't overcomplicate it. Again, I feel like a lot of brands sometimes get confused again by what they see on social media in terms of, oh, this brand had a massive brand day at like TikTok's office and stuff like this, or studios, whereas realistically, it doesn't need to be that grand scale, especially when you're beginning. Like I say, if you've got space, all you need is camera, ring light, good internet connection, and you can literally do your live anywhere. For example, I was speaking to a brand yesterday to do hair products, and I said to them, look, don't overcomplicate it. If you're like in the morning, like products after you just come out of the shower and stuff like that, jump on a live, talk about it. And again, it's just all about just being smart with the resources you've got. And at the same time, like we mentioned throughout, it's just being consistent with it. Like I say, don't think because you're not getting many sales or many views, it's not working. It's just all leading to start to build up. So I think it's definitely going to be a big year for TikTok lives. And I feel like the brands that are starting to look into investing into it, and I don't mean investing into it in terms from a cost perspective, but from a time perspective, I think they're going to definitely reap the rewards. And again, if you can plan early now, just imagine, like I say, Q4 comes next year, again, start to look at the bigger picture for it for sure.
Brilliant. Great. Nice insights there. Shoppable videos. What's your predictions for that for 2025?
You agree, Tana?
Shoppable videos, I think, actually I don't have a prediction on shoppable videos.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. I'll rephrase the question. How important is shoppable videos as part of a balanced strategy?
No, it's the bread and butter, right? Because I think, like the showcase is more or less, managed, proactive. Like the shop tab is just something that happens. You don't have to do anything for it. The lives are like punctual, and the shoppable videos are your bread and butter, right? And they are like your brand identity, and they sit there. And because the live is there, you can have like special items or during a special timing. And the shoppable videos, circling back to where we started, can be discovered a month later. It can go viral a year later, and then you should have that thing in stock, right? So maybe you lose it. You like use it more for things you're going to replenish. But this is nothing new, basically. But I don't. I don't see or predict any specific trends in terms of like contents or formats or. It's still like diversity. It's still your brand identity. It's still like the playground where you can play with, or your creators can play with.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah. And again, with that, I think it's just all about just having a strategy for it. And again, there's no right or wrong. I always think in terms of, like saying, when you are doing shoppable video, it's just kind of trying something, and like I say, the most important part is looking at the data. And I would always say there's two ways doing it: being proactive, but at the same time also being reactive, which is kind of a weird thing to think. Because again, like if being proactive, again, like campaigns that are coming up, you can obviously get ahead of the curve. But then also being reactive to, say, for example, there's any trends on the market or anything's happening in terms of that side of things. So definitely having both of them in play. And again, deciding what you're going to want to push in the shoppable video as well. Say if you've got like a massive range of SKUs, right? Do you want to be more concise in terms of, okay, our next 10 pieces of Channable videos, we're going to focus on our hero SKU, or we're going to have a mixture. Again, just kind of having that strategy in mind. So again, if you have a hypothesis in terms of saying, okay, look, for our next 10 videos, we're going to focus solely on our hero product, look at the data and say, okay, well, this worked or this didn't. So again, I think it's just all about just having that strategy, making a hypothesis about it, looking at the data, and then start building from then onwards is the main thing for it.
Okay, brilliant. I'm conscious of the time, and I'm conscious that I've been asking all the questions. So I'm in the light of fairness, Tanner and Ashley, is there anything that you guys, not necessarily to ask me, but is there anything that maybe we've missed or you would like to highlight as we draw to the last few minutes of the webinar?
Yeah, I think I'd like to take up some of the questions I'm seeing. So can you go live anytime? Yeah, you can go live literally anytime. If it's just me for my brand to begin with launching on TikTok, what roles and departments should be my priority to fulfill in the first 6 months? Okay, yeah, you need to, if it's just you, you need to be one of many, like in any startup. But definitely, I think I would, first get the operations right, so you have a base, and then you can think about like amplifying by creators and ads.
Awesome. Any other questions?
And then how many shoppable videos can you create for a product? As many as you want.
Just one thing there as well. I saw that question as well about the first 6 months. I recommend as well to brands, like I say, as much as I'm an agency, I always personally think that for brands, it's worth looking into the platform and at least getting to grasp it and understand it. Because again, even if you know how, for example, operations work, the affiliate side, the open collaboration, it's good to have at least a base knowledge of that before, like I say, going and investing resources, time into an agency, because at least you know what kind of is happening. I say don't need to be in depth, but at least just kind of knowing the ins and outs of how the back end kind of works for sure.
Okay, great. I think we're in the last 2 minutes, so I will ask a final question to both of you. And Tanner, I'll start with you first this time. What are your top 3 tips then for any brand that's trying to be, or retailer that's trying to be successful on TikTok Shop in 2025? It doesn't have to be 3, could be 2.
First, take it seriously. Second, be patient. And 3, be consistent.
Love it.
Geez, for a curveball there, actually can took ones I was going to use, but yeah, I'd say kind of what I've touched on throughout. Set realistic expectations. Again, yep. I'd also say be patient and understand the bigger goal for it. And then I'd probably say third, a different one, treat it as its own individual channel and don't try and kind of merge it with the other channels you're kind of doing, because then you can probably get more out of the channel if you kind of focus on it as, like say, TikTok Shop, rather than, like say, trying to integrate with your other platforms that you're running.
Awesome. Great advice, Tanner and Ashley. I think it's been a really insightful session. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot today as well. Today was really just to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what brands can expect in terms of health, resource tips and insights. I think, Tanner, this is probably new to you, but I would probably like to create a little bit of a series on this and maybe do a part 2 and go a little bit deeper into actually ad strategy, creator strategy, strategic partnerships. So maybe that's something that we could plan for Q2. But with that said, I would just like to thank all the audience, everyone that's joined the webinar today. I'd like to thank you, Tanner Maria, for your insights, and obviously I'd like to thank you as well, Ashley, and we look forward to part 2.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was very lovely. Absolutely. Have a great rest of the day.
And you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.